Hi, welcome to another episode of Swarajya Conversations. Today we have with us Jan Ki Baat's Pradeep Bhandari, who has been engaged in very elaborate post and pre-poll surveys, especially for the recently concluded five big state elections. Thank you so much for your time, Pradeep. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Namaskar, and great to be on Swarajya.
Pradeep, before anyone predicted what happened in Punjab, I'll start with Punjab first because on Punjab, we used to have these conversations where I was the skeptic one and you were the confident one. You saw the Aam Aadmi Party wave way before anyone did, and there was this whole discussion about BJP forming a coalition government, a captain getting the Akalis and the BJP together, all the permutations and combinations. But you, in our conversations, were very confident that Aam Aadmi Party is going to sweep the state. Tell us, what did you see which no other pollster did?
Tushar, first of all, it's great to be with you. And I remember the conversations that we used to have, and you've been following Punjab politics from a very close distance. So it's generally when you follow politics from close distance, you somehow overestimate some factors and are somehow skeptic about something which has not happened in the past. Now, I have been new to Punjab politics, and I looked at it as an observer who has no past election experience on Punjab. So for me, when I traveled on the ground and my team traveled on the ground, we saw it as a very simple elections with nearly more than 50 percentage people talking about change and giving Aam Aadmi Party an opportunity once in election. Now, historically, if you see Aam Aadmi Party is like that new dish that people want to try on their political dinner menu when they've been bored by trying the same dish in the past. So it does not have any past legacy issues. And in 2017, because it lost, so there was further resurgence to give that party a chance once. And I think it was a symbol election. And even in strong areas of Akali, when I traveled, I saw a wave of Aam Aadmi Party, which gave me a sense of significant confidence that what I saw with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2019, I was seeing, or what I saw in 2017 UP, or what I saw in Delhi 2020, I was seeing the similar sentiment in Punjab in 2022. So I was quite convinced that it is not to do with any personalities, it is to do with symbol and Punjab wanting to give another party a chance once.
So, what happens? Like, what transpired in Punjab? Was it the vote of angst? And if yes, what it does to the Akalis, to Captain, to BJP 2 years from now when we'll be fighting the 2024 elections? What happens then?
Tushar, it's a pure anti-incumbency vote where the voter was tired of Akali, and there is no strong sentiment for Akali in Punjab, and the sentiment has deteriorated with Sukhbir Singh Badal at the helm of affairs. Now, with Congress, because of its infighting and because of inability of Congress party to stay united, it did not provide a good alternative to the people of Punjab. Now, Captain had a very positive sentiment in 2017, but after 2017, the sentiment on the ground was that Captain did not run a very proactive government and he was not very visible on the ground. So all these factors were negative. That is where the vacuum was filled by Aam Aadmi Party, where the whole sentiment of a Delhi model really worked with the voters. Now, coming on to what will happen from here to 2024, it is very interesting. Now, if Aam Aadmi Party is able to pull off a government in the coming 2 years, which fulfills some of the promises that they have, given in their manifestos to the voter, then it can be advantageous for them even in 2024. But I am of this firm opinion that if the Bharatiya Janata Party invests in good, right faces and is able to build a good social combination, eventually the state will move towards Bharatiya Janata Party versus Aam Aadmi Party in the long run, because both the Congress Party and the Akalis now might be moving towards number three, number four position. But it all depends on how the BJP moves on from here. But in 2024, if the Aam Aadmi Party is able to provide a good governance satisfactory to the people, then you will see that, because Punjab generally has been an anti-center state. If you see in 2019 also, it did not give significant seats to the Bharatiya Janata Party. So Aam Aadmi Party has chance to pull off some seats in Lok Sabha, provided the perception in these 2 years, and how is it able to fulfill the perception. And the BJP really needs to work a lot. I think the BJP Punjab unit is comparatively very weak compared to others, compared to any other election. It does not know how to mobilize voters, get the sentiment going. It's not able to build a Jatsic face. So there are many issues. There is time. If the BJP is able to at least consolidate those issues, take the message of the Prime Minister across, then there is some chance to the Bharatiya Janata Party. But as of now, I think there is a strong sentiment for Aam Aadmi Party. We have to wait and watch. I think by end of this, by early 2023, I'll be in a will be able to give you an estimate of whether 2024 is a done deal or not.
A small follow-up question before we move on to UP. Where do you see the Akalis? Do you see them coming back to the NDA by any chance?
Tushar, I that is a possibility because neither the the relationship between Prakash Singh Badal and Prime Minister Narendra Modi are very much intact. Now the question here is if the Kali intends to come to the Bharatiya Janata Party, they have to agree to be the second fiddle player. Generally, if you see in the Akali BJP alliance, it's the Akalis which have dominated in the
Hmm.
pin. Now, if the BJP ends up doing the same mistake that it did in the past, where it allows the Akalis to grow in the pin and it is limited to a smaller faction. So it's as said कि भाई किसी दूसरे की बैसाखी पर आप कब तक चल सकते हो. So I think that will not be in the interest of the BJP because for after 2.5 decades, I see there is an opportunity for BJP to make itself strong rather than always
Hmm.
making its alliance partner strong. So I would be looking at it will be disadvantages for the Bharatiya Janata Party to get Akali Dal back with Akali Dal being the driver in the alliance. It should be BJP which drives the alliance now because Akali Dal at it as it, at it, is at its historical lowest in terms of public perception, in terms of its starter, all of it across. So the BJP should utilize that, should capitalize on that if the Akali intends to come back to the Bharatiya Janata Party. If situation is where the Akali comes back with the leading the alliance, then again it will be disadvantageous to the Bharatiya Janata Party in the longer run to come.
Pradeep, I looked at some of the UP numbers before the state went to polls. This was from February. It was an internal party document. And they kept the numbers at around 250, 255. Then we had the exit polls a couple of days before the results came out, and Axis gave it 300 plus, several others gave it 220, 240. But you were the one who was sticking his neck out and saying 270 odd is the final number for the NDA. And in the end, that was the number. A lot of people would have hoped that it would be 300 plus looking at the exit polls, but that was not to be. Now we'll break down UP, but first tell me, how were you so sure that it wouldn't be the repetition of 2017? It won't be a triple century again for the BJP and somewhere around 270.
Tushar, 2017 also I had been on the ground and I got the when I remember at that time that was my first election. So that 5 years back that was my first election, and I had got an opportunity to travel every district. In that poll I had done with BTV, I have Bloomberg TV India, and I gave it overwhelming 270 plus for the Bharatiya Janata Party, and an exit poll also we were sure that it will cross 280 because I was seeing a pure sentiment of change. And at that time, pollsters, including the one you mentioned, were topping about 200, 185, 190. This time, I was shocked to see that in a completely bipolar election, there were pollsters who were converting 300 seats at 40-41 percentage vote share for the BJP. It is impossible. Anybody with small, little bit understanding of politics and who has traveled on the ground and has not looked at mere data from what is being brought by the surveyors will tell you that a bipolar election for to get 300 seats you need a minimum 47 48 percentage vote share. In 2019 also when the BJP in a Lok Sabha in a virtually bipolar contest ended up getting 60 plus seats, which was around 290 280 odd seats, it was at a vote share of 49 percentage. So here I was my vote share sample was showing that the BJP alliance will be landing up at max of 42 percentage, max of 41 to 42 percentage, and in that scenario, it's not possible in a bipolar election to touch a 300 mark. Number two is I saw Samajwadi Party gaining in lot of last time the vote of Samajwadi Party was diffused. Here I was seeing that the Samajwadi Party led alliance will be touching at least a vote share of 35 percentage. A lot of people had questioned me in the start, but I was convinced because there was certain amount of vote addition which was taking place. So in such a scenario, you would see an overwhelming majority for the Bharatiya Janata Party. You also would see a good amount of vote share for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Like last time in 2017, the BJP ended up 39 point some percentage vote share and got 320 seats. Now, similarly, the BJP has increased its vote share by roughly 2 percentage, but the seats have fallen down purely because it's a virtually a bipolar contest which UP has not seen in the past assembly elections. Generally, in the past in UP, at 25 percentage, you used to see people getting 200 seats. So that is what had convinced me. And there were certain pocket issues in Purvanchal, because of which Samajwadi Party was gaining. So this is why I was really shocked to see such an extreme amount of verdict given to the BJP with 320, 330. In fact, I'll tell you the right number for the BJP, even in a post poll, was 250. To be honest, there were very few. There were seats which the BJP won with a very, very thin margin. If you look
Hmm.
and deep dive into the data, so I think it's outperformed itself with a 270 number. And generally, what happens is, Tushar, when you see that a party is coming back to power, so close margin seats, it generally happens that 1,500 seats, it's goes to a party which is coming back to power. So if you see in Madhya Pradesh in 2018 elections, the BJP got a higher vote share than the Congress, but the Congress
Hmm.
ended up getting 12 seats more than the Bharatiya Janata Party, and those were with margins 600, 700, because the administration favored the Congress there. And these are things which happen. So I think 250, which you're talking about, is the apt number, and this is the 250 odd verdict for the NDA, is what I still. And it's an overwhelming verdict for the NDA. We're getting around near two-thirds is also as good as getting a 300 plus, is what I come to in conclusion. But three converting for I had no problem with 300. My issue was people were converting 300 seats at 41 percentage, which is like you are fundamentally flawed in your election analysis. It's like saying
Hmm.
that I don't know anything about elections, I don't know anything about basics of Uttar Pradesh, and then I'm just saying a lot of things on air. That was my problem. There were pollsters who were giving a vote share range from 40 to 46. Now 40 and
Hmm.
46, there is जमीन आसमान का डिफरेंस होता है कि आप कहो कि भाजपा 40 ला रही है और 46 ला रही है. So those were my
Hmm.
issues in Uttar Pradesh, and that is why I was quite confident. And yeah, so that's what I was confident on.
What did not work for the Samajwadi Party in Western Uttar Pradesh? Because that was where they would were supposed to make the big dent into the BJP's vote share. So what
I
did not work?
Tushar, I remember in 2019 also, when this alliance between the Samajwadi Party and BSP had taken place, all these 2 BHK journalists had started tweeting that will be the most historical alliance ever seen, because all these people are paid 1 lakh and they per month, and you can ask them to tweet anything and everything they want. So at that time also, I had way back in my pre-poll estimate said that BJP will outperform the Samajwadi Party BSP in 2019, because BJP was looking at a 50 percentage vote share there. Here, it was a pure impact of law and order, because even in the Jat vote, Tushar, it was not that entirely the Jats were going against the Bharatiya Janata Party. If they were going with RLD in Saharanpur, they were going with the BJP in Meerut. It was purely because people did not trust that if the Samajwadi Party alliance will come back, then the law and order and security will remain. So even the Jats, to an extent, had gone with the BJP purely on this. And this is why I see there is a huge issue of Samajwadi Party with respect to legacies. Now, the tickets which the Samajwadi Party had given to Azam Khan, Nahid Hassan, and all in order to consolidate the Muslim vote had angered the Jat. And historically, if you see, Tushar, the Jats and the Muslims don't go by voting together. And number two is, even
Hmm.
at a places, suppose the Jats go ahead and vote along for the along with the Muslims at places where the RLD was fighting, you will see that the non-dominant caste of the Dalits who had got ration, who had got Ujwala, who had got houses, they had voted for the BJP as a revolt against the dominant caste. So that social psyche was very, very important. And I am telling you that run up to 2024, Prime Minister Modi has a strong base vote of 50 percentage from which he will be starting, because the small amount of issues which people had in Uttar Pradesh because of local factors, those will mostly be eliminated till 2024, and the Dalit vote will go more to the BJP than you see it right now. So this is where I don't see 20. If you ask me, 2024 is a cakewalk for the BJP as of right now, if it does not do any amount of big blunder.
We will come to that question, but one question I have ahead of 24, 2 years, we are still 2 years away from the national election. But looking at Purvanchal, for instance, as a sample set for the recently concluded elections, do you think BJP has mastered the caste arithmetic? We were
Yes.
talking about all the high profile exits from the BJP, say Swami Prasad Maurya and a couple of others, and people were suddenly worried that, oh, BJP has messed up its caste arithmetic. Do you think it has mastered it in the recently concluded elections and ahead of 24? Let's look at Purvanchal as an example here.
I completely agree with you. And Tushar, I am of this strong opinion that no political party, like in the 1990s, used to say that I have that amount of base vote, this is a vote which I have with me. All of that does not work. Vote has become more fluid, and voters have become more impatient with their choices. And the Bharatiya Janata Party, which if you look in 2012, that is just two assembly elections before this, it was nearly a double digit party. But the entire social engineering 2.0, by getting the strong base of non-Yadav OBC with it, apart from the non-Yadav OBC, ensuring that welfare schemes reaches the SCs, and ensuring that significant chunk of the Dalit vote moves towards it, and an inactivity of a Mayawati gets BJP to a 50 percentage vote share. So I'm again saying that yes, it has completely re-engineered the social dynamics, and this is because the Hindu consciousness is now, implicitly and subconsciously there in people, and it is here to stay. And this is where the baseline of Indian politics is not what is in 1990s, and that is what saddens me. Is individuals are still looking at the Indian politics from a 1990s lens. I am right now looking at least UP or any politics from a very fluid vote point of view. And at this moment, with so many welfare beneficiaries and a personal connect of the leader with the masses, I am not looking at this caste, other caste. That is a basic representation which is there. But I don't see any other leader apart from Modi who has the ability to pull off a 50 percentage vote share in Uttar Pradesh. And in that scenario, a voter will never go to a confused verdict and will never go to a confused alternative. And in Lok Sabha, to further here, you had an Akhilesh Yadav with some amount of base vote. In Lok Sabha, you will not be able to position somebody against a Modi in Uttar Pradesh, and there is no anti-Modi sentiment as of now. So, if these circumstances prevail, I would see BJP doing extremely well in Uttar Pradesh in 2024, because it has right now in 2017, it had in 2019 it was going with a base vote of 34 percentage. I am looking BJP going with a base vote of more than 45 percentage, because from 2017, from 2019 to 2024, you have really increased a significant portion of Dalit population, which did not vote for you in 2019 because of Mayawati and Samajwadi Party alliance. Even if there is an alliance of Mayawati, there is no chance for it to go back, because now people of Dalits have also started to understand that these people cannot defeat Modi in 2024, and so the people will not like to waste their vote. So till the time there is strong amount of anger against the BJP, I don't see BJP having any problem in UP in 2024. I'm looking at a 45 percentage odd base vote with which they are starting. They might even cross the vote there they achieved last time, which was around 49 point some percentage.
No, no, two things. There was the one law and order factor which people felt Yogi had done remarkably well on, the law and order factor. The second factor was the welfare schemes, the ration, the vaccine, the Jal Jeevan Mission, all these things, which was a doing of the center there for Modi. Now, you have traveled on the ground, you have had extensive experience on the ground. If one were to pick up the major factor that resulted in the BJP victory in Uttar Pradesh, was it the Yogi factor, the Yogi phenomena, or is it still the Modi phenomena?
I think it's a mix of two. You can't remove the Modi phenomena for sure. Yogi Adityanath has definitely added votes to the Bharatiya Janata Party, no doubt about that. Yogi is not a, like a Raghubar Das in Jharkhand was a accelerating factor. Yogi is a
Hmm,
catalyst for the BJP in UP. Nobody can deny that. But if you ask me the
hmm,
top three factors which work, it was a Modi Yogi election. Apart from that, it was Ration, which was dominating heavily. I think I'll rate it much more than Law and Order. And number three, it's the central schemes which had reached to the women since
hmm.
2014. So it's a bond that Modi has formed with the women of Uttar Pradesh over a period of time. On top of that, it was Yogi which was providing law and order. It was Yogi which was providing ration. So ration really worked across caste segment, and this is where you see a good amount and significant amount of improvement happening here.
Right.
So I will not say
Uh,
that had Modi not been there, this election would have pulled off easily. It's both of them working at different places, because ultimately
hmm,
it's a state election. So people, when they compared a Yogi with an Akhilesh, they always went towards a Yogi Adityanath. But in Purvanchal particularly, the situation of the Bharatiya Janata Party was very weak. And so, the ability for the BJP in order to move across the caste lines, because Akhilesh had really done significantly good amount of alliances. The small alliances with the smaller parties was a very good political experiment. Despite of all of that, if the BJP is able to win it, it was largely because of Modi's connect in Purvanchal and the ration that Yogi had delivered to the people of Uttar Pradesh post COVID times.
Moving to Uttarakhand, which gave a big surprise. We were talking about Uttarakhand. You always said BJP had a strong edge there, and turns out they had much more than just a strong edge. But it has always been a swing state: Congress, BJP, Congress, BJP. Now this norm has been broken. Where do you think the Congress lost the plot in Uttarakhand?
Rahul Gandhi is the best advantage for the BJP anywhere he goes. It's an election. Trust me, I remember I was reading this tweet by a reporter 2 days back, and it said that the G23 is ready with a plan in order to, move the leadership of the Congress party away from the Gandhis. But the BJP is not supporting them in this mission. So BJP will always want to have Rahul Gandhi and the Gandhis continue to be present in the Congress party. But if you ask me in Uttarakhand, see, Uttarakhand was basically a Congress election. It was an election for the Congress party to win. But despite that, the Congress did not give Harish Rawat, you know, the entire wherewithal to make those changes. Number two is that the party, in fact, if you see whether it is the Congress, it was Harish Rawat, whether it were others in the Congress party in Uttarakhand, they were not a united lot. So 3 months behind, if you ask me, the Congress was looking at sweeping the election, and the BJP was at a base of 20. But in the last 1.5 months, you saw Modi delivering a complete overhaul. It was purely a Modi vote. It was Modi swinging Gadwal for the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the Congress not able to get enough votes in Kumaon. And I'll give you another interesting statistics. In Uttar Pradesh, the men and the women vote was roughly the similar, but in Uttarakhand, the women vote was 4.5% more than the men vote, and majority of this vote went to the Bharatiya Janata Party only because of Modi. So if you ask me, did the state unit of the BJP pull off this election? Absolutely not. It's purely a Modi election. Somehow in Uttarakhand and Himachal, Modi has this current which is unprecedented, unheard of. And this is why if you read and understand that even in 2019, maximum verdicts with which the BJP had won happened in Uttarakhand. So it was
Hmm.
purely a Modi election, and it was an election
Do
for Congress to win and an election for BJP to lose.
do you think the whole citation of the law and order situation, or say the uniform civil code, really helped the BJP or no?
No, I don't think so. Tushar, I'm of this firm opinion that elections are not altered in 24 hours.
Hmm.
If something very huge or unprecedented does not happen, the BJP, for example, tried that Kumar Vishwas, tried to propel what Kumar Vishwas said in Punjab, but it did not get the eye of the voter. The voter
Hmm.
looks at what you do in non-electoral season. So elections today
Hmm.
are not fought only through campaigning. In fact, there should be a data study, because my data tells me that campaigns are a necessity, that voter ने अच्छा चलो नेता मेरे पास आ रहा है, but people don't shift their choices in a matter of a day, or it is not that किसी ने rally कर दी तो पूरी choice shift हो जाएगी. So I don't see what the BJP tried to do with the UCC really shifted a significant amount of vote. These are factors which reiterate what the voter wants to vote for, or so I it's not that because UCC happened so the BJP won the election. In
Hmm.
fact, it was since Modi had entered the election, it was quite clear with the Congress not able to completely keep its house united. It was purely a Modi election, and this happened over a period of time in the last 1 month of campaigning. And see, people say micro factors. Micro factors will be there in election, but in election with the BJP is winning with a complete majority, you can't say that micro factors work. It was purely that people trusting a Modi over trusting, say, a Congress party, which could not even declare a Harish Rawat as their chief ministerial face. So people, if elect a Congress, they did not know who will be their chief minister face. And if the videos of Harish Rawat had emerged where he was asking for another seat. So all these factors gave you an example that Congress is not willing to fight in Uttarakhand, or it was not an opponent which itself had the confidence to defeat the BJP in Uttarakhand.
So pretty much the Modi wave is still very much alive and flourishing even after 2 years of the pandemic.
See, Tushar, if I ask you, when Indra was there was a JP who was a credible, leader in the opposition who could oppose places when Indra had gone wrong. I don't
Hmm.
see any leader today having that credibility of even an opponent at a pan-India scale to galvanize this public sentiment. So what the let's say lot of these strategists go ahead and say that majority of the minority vote you get, minority of the majority vote you get. You win elections. That can happen in a state like Bengal when you have 35 percentage of the Muslims. But when you look at pan India, India is moving into a leader phase over a party phase. So there is no other leader which has the ability to garner a 50 percentage or a 40 percentage vote share in India. So till the time the positivity of this leader will remain, till the time a Modi sentiment will be more than an anti-Modi sentiment, whatever you do, 25 leaders you get on the stage, do chur chur, non-chur chur, whatever you do, you will not get the pulse of the voter. You look, and I'll give you this with data. See, in Delhi, BJP could not project somebody against an Arvind Kejriwal. The Aam Aadmi Party won. In Jharkhand, people had problem with Raghubar Das. The Bharatiya Janata Party, lost. You come again in Mamta Banerjee was a leader of the BJP, could not project against Mamta despite strong amount of anti-incumbency. Mamta won. Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma and the BJP's work. There was nobody else from the Congress who could capitalize on that. The Bharatiya Janata Party won. In Uttar Pradesh, there was a Yogi Adityanath. Akhilesh was a resistant vote. The Bharatiya Janata Party won. So, for example, in Haryana, the BJP promised 70 plus, but it ended up 40. It had to do an alliance with JJP because the chief minister could not get significant amount of votes in certain Jat pockets. So, in a sense, we are moving into a leader-driven phenomena, a leader personality-driven election with parties ensuring that the votes that they reach booth and convey the message of the leader. So your faces today are more important than what they were before. So the Congress, if it thinks that it will not declare faces, it cannot work in this election. It cannot work in this new India because in a social media era where information is flowing across, you associate more with personalities. Parties are there; they will provide a basic essential, but personalities are more important than parties today.
What do you make of the results in Manipur and Goa? In Manipur, I've spoken to a few reporters over there, a few civilians, and all of them say that the impact of the welfare schemes is huge. The Awas Yojana, the ration, the vaccine, it's huge. So in Manipur, that is one notion that's going around. What do you make of it in Goa? Because BJP this time had vote share both in North and South Goa. So what do you make of these two states?
Manipur, I completely agree with you, Tushar. And if you look at this, Northeast, the states in Northeast are a very interesting study to dissect on how the BJP has grown from. If you remember, in 2014, 90 percentage of the seats of the BJP came from 60 percentage of the heartland. Now in
Hmm.
2019, the area further increased. In 2024, you will see BJP making a further dent in Telangana. It might get higher vote share in Tamil Nadu. So the Northeast is a case in point that the BJP has a very long-term strategy in order to stay in power in India because it knows that there will be places where our seats might depreciate. So there are other areas from which we will consolidate that. And Northeast, the infrastructure development which has taken place across
Hmm.
states in Northeast, whether it is Assam, whether it is Manipur, whether it is Tripura, has been unprecedented. And this has to
Hmm.
be acknowledged. So I see that Northeast, the states in Northeast, I don't see any other government in the past with the speed at which it is doing infrastructure development in Northeast. I don't think the UPA era infrastructure development is even near to what the BJP is doing. That is point number one. And point number two is I would see safety and security in Northeast, particularly in a lot of areas. This is also reverberated in the people. And on top of that has been the welfare scheme. See, in today's era with the phone there, Tushar, you did not have that technology available 20 years back. Today you can really remove the intermediaries and get the welfare benefits at the doorstep of the voter. And this is what Modi has precisely done. So people call it, I will, so I don't call it socialism, but welfareism is a basic, every politician does that. Modi has just ensured that the effective delivery of welfare has taken place. And number two, the leakages are near to minimal in his schemes. That is point number two. And point number three, he knows that he has ensured that an individual, even when he's living, there are basic necessities of water, of toilet, of cooking, of house. He's delivered that. And so this is where it falls into the picture. On Goa, Tushar, I strongly feel, and I was strongly have this opinion that there was a strong anti-BJP sentiment. This is clearly the I would say a split of the anti-incumbency vote A, and number one and number two BJP really doing a significant amount of micro planning at 40 different seats. So Goa is an election which is fought at 40 seats in a 40 different way. So I would purely look at as a split of an anti-incumbency vote, because when I used to talk to a lot of people of the Bharatiya Janata Party in center about Goa, they were very circumspect about Goa. They were looking at a Congress sweep. But despite that, because when I used to get data, I used to be looking at BJP will not go less than 15, 16 in any scenario. So it can reach a 1920 also, because there was a split of an anti-incumbency vote. And full credits there to Devendra Fadnavis and the entire team for pulling off Goa, because again, Congress, it was an election for Congress to win, Tushar. And Uttarakhand was also an election for the Congress party to win. So there were these two elections which were there for the Congress party to win. And if the Congress is not able to even emerge as a force, becoming weaker than what it was in 2017, clearly speaks against volumes about how people look at Congress as an option in national polity. So you will get paper based. And I'll give you another thing. In Uttar Pradesh, out of 403 seats, the Congress ended up losing 401 seats, and more than 360 seats, its deposits were complete. There was, जमानत जब्त हो गई थी कांग्रेस पार्टी की. So आपने सिर्फ लीडर को फेस कर दिया, आपके पार्टी का संगठन नहीं, बूथ नहीं, तो आप कैसे इवॉल्व हो सकते? You can't do that.
But tell me something now. Now, if I were to ask, what do you make of Congress now in Himachal, where it's again a swing state, and in Gujarat, because these are the next two big elections around Diwali, and where does it leave the BJP with the momentum they have? Is it going to be a cakewalk in Gujarat, and can they swing Himachal towards themselves, make an exception as they've done in Uttarakhand, or it's still a long shot?
I would reserve my comments on Himachal because I have not traveled there and have not got any primary data as of now. So I will be in a position to comment on Himachal after some time. But on Gujarat, I made two visits, and those were very initial visits. And save this video, Tushar, in after the elections. Even though I have not began polling and analyzing and advising on this election, but having the experience of doing Gujarat the last time, and having now done 25, 26 elections and traveled across the length and the breadth of country, I can tell you that the sense that I'm getting initially from here is that BJP might get a higher mandate than what it got in 2017, a higher vote share than what it got in 2017, and it might be no competition in Gujarat, because the highest which the any party has got in Gujarat has been Madhav Singh Solanki's 145. Now this time with Modi, CR Patel and Shah working, and with a fragmented opposition, every second day there are leaders from AAP which are joining the BJP. In the next few days, there will be certain sitting Congress MLAs which will join the BJP. So whatever rise, whatever anger of partidar and farm distress which had combined together to give Congress certain amount of seats last time, it does not exist right now. And before 2024, Gujarat will not give Modi a setback. In fact, it will make Modi stronger, because that will be the narrative. So with all of these combined, I think BJP is looking at one of its biggest victories in Gujarat as of now, is what I sense currently, and it might surprise people in terms of the quantum of victory also. In Himachal, I will reserve my comments. And in fact, if the BJP ends up getting a very historic mandate in Gujarat, it further gives chance for the Aam Aadmi Party to replace the Congress in years to come. But in this election, I don't see any competition, at least as of now.
So all indicators are pointing. Of course, the BJP would not like to consider it a cakewalk. That's not how really they function electorally. But all indicators right now make BJP the favorite for 24. If we were to sum up this conversation.
Yeah. No, I'll give you a simple example. There is only one place where the BJP really needs to worry. That is
Hmm.
Bengal.
Hmm.
And there is it really needs to you know get active in Bengal, and the central leadership also needs to have a plan in Bengal for 2024. Now, what there
Hmm.
is a new trend which is happening in Bengal, Tushar, is that because the TMC thinks that there is no opposition to TMC, they started to fight among themselves. This entire
Hmm.
yesterday, I had done the story of this Birbhum massacre. The real reason was about the control for mining mafia between an Anubrata's man and Anurul Hassan was the MLA's man. So the BJP needs to work on the society, because the society of Bengal has forgotten to stand up for its right, and Bengal only respects strength. So the BJP, when in post-poll violence, it could not stand up for its people like it should have. That is there in the subconscious. So the
Hmm.
BJP has to have an ability, or at least a plan to not be completely wiped out from Bengal. It really needs to get significant amount of seats, if not touch the number of 18 which it got last time. And this time the BJP has very good chance in Telangana in the Lok Sabha, Tushar. Assembly, I'm not quite sure, but in the Lok Sabha for sure, the BJP, there is a strong, after Karnataka, Telangana is becoming another stop destination for Hindutva in the south. Now Tamil
Also,
Nadu, I am
the
yes,
India will also gain more votes in Tamil Nadu in 24 then.
yes. So
The
there is
NDA.
also
Hmm.
Tamil Nadu again. I have to dig deeper, but Annamalai has given a momentum to the BJP, and he's really picking up the right narrative points which earlier the BJP could not, because Tamil Nadu
Hmm.
politics, Dravidian politics has always been anti-center. Now he's somehow trying
Hmm.
to amalgate and change that. But what I'm looking at is I am looking at a scenario that if there is a depreciation for Bengal, the BJP has a Telangana to counter that. It is in good relationship with Naveen Patnaik in Odisha. So if you see that the BJP and BJD and the BJP have been working in a significantly understandable relationship. So there is no problem. So I don't see an anti-BJP sentiment beginning right now. You will see all of that in media, Tushar, but on the ground, in the mind of the voter, if something catastrophe does not happen, I see Modi in a very comfortable position in 2020.
Right. Safe to say this won't be the last conversation we'll be having on Swarajya regarding the elections, and going forward, we'll be talking about
You
more
are
and more
the
elections.
you are the controller. You're the controller of deciding how many conversations we have. I am a simple common man going and traveling to the people of India and paying my taxes, Tushar.
Wonderful. Thank you for that wonderful conversation. I'm sure there was a lot of learning for our viewers. Thank you so much, Pradeep.
Thank you, Tushar. Thanks a lot for having me. Thank you so much. Namaskar.